Now, why do you want to watch this week's show? Well, because we're dealing with victim mentality. It's something that everybody goes through at some point in their life, is the pointing out of the finger. This happened to me because that. The problem is that it lies within you. Your ability to take radical responsibility of your life will be the defining factor of what you are able to achieve. So stay with us today in this episode as we unpack all of those areas and give you some natty, pracky advice to what you can do in your life to help yourself if you're feeling a little bit like a victim.
What are the 5 topics or beliefs or ideas or concepts that you're consuming on a daily the most? Just look at your algorithm on Instagram and you get the answer. So is that message you're consuming on social media, that energy of the message, whether it's love, whether it's hate, whether it's anger, whether it's joy, whether it's peace, whether it's ego, whether it's spirituality, what is the core essence of that message, A, and B, what is the intent of the messenger sending you the message? If you can pinpoint that and then pinpoint where you want to go, you can very easily select for or against people, opinions, and ideas.
Do you notice that you're different when you're with your parents, let's say, versus your friend group? Do you find that you notice that you may approach things differently depending on who you're around?
I think rather than making that about family and putting them in the bucket of family or friends or like more casual friends, it's more the type of person, because within family I have different relationships with different members. So I think a lot of it comes down to, for me specifically, being more patient with, let's say, within my family groups that I feel are consuming my energy rather than feeding into my energy, because there's a misalignment in how they believe the world functions versus how I believe the world functions. So part of it, for example, is this statement that not everyone agrees with, that you are the one that writes your own story. So yeah, but what if the boss doesn't like me? What if I didn't grow up with money? So these are all like the things, and then you almost have to be more patient when it comes to that, and you have to explain. And then sometimes they're willing to accept your viewpoint, sometimes they're not. But it requires more patience from me specifically, interacting with these people. And then I think one thing that we can talk about when it comes to that is, and that's a topic not a lot of people speak about, you can do all the work and you can, let's say, raise your baseline level of emotion. You can work on your peace. You can establish the beliefs you want to establish. You can work on breaking down beliefs that are not serving you anymore, but that are controlling you. You do all of that. You're like, I just built a freaking armor. I'm going to go out. Nothing can faze me. Conversation with your mom happens, your dad happens, and now you're like, damn, you need to defend that frequency now because they don't agree with that. They have a different worldview. And now if you don't have a concept of defending your own new version of self, you're going to revert right back to your old self.
I think actually it's really interesting when it comes to the conversations with parents, or especially with family. One, because they've known you the longest, and two, because that then allows you some form of being able to, or at least feeling like you can be more no filter with them. But also because to some degree, even when it comes to conversations that I have with my mum or my dad, I notice that sometimes we have to know that the majority of our personalities comes from that, and that even in the point where that's probably why we want to defend our beliefs or viewpoints more to our family than we care about defending them to other people, maybe
because we care for them.
Well, one, because we're closer to them, and two, because some part of us realizes that that's where they came from a lot of the time. Like, we inherit our beliefs from our parents most of the time.
So it's a way for us to process.
And then in that process, while we're then battling something where we actually need to just be like, well, I've come to a point in my life where I realize that that's just how they think. That's what they believe.
Yeah.
I'm not going to change that. So I don't need to change. And again, I don't need to change their view on anything anyway. All I need to do is change my view. So it's constantly on turning that back round to yourself.
So it's with the family members, then what you're saying is the reason you're so passionate about getting your point across or explaining your fundamental belief is because you're wrestling with that part of yourself that initially formed a belief that you're now trying to shed or change. Mm-hmm. So it's you wrestling with yourself to a certain degree when you speak to your family, because this is the seed of where that belief was formed. There was some interaction with your family, probably.
Yeah, and just as you just become more, you understand more as life goes on that all of these beliefs have come from somewhere anyway. Mm-hmm. So while you're engaged in any process of unpacking or understanding where your beliefs come from, naturally you're going to notice that you want to defend them at some points, and it's in those points that I guess you begin to understand that those are the ones that you're most insecure about, or that you have least amount of information about, or that you're still outsourcing some,
That I'm just realizing this as you speak, because the reason you become so passionate and animated and almost more defensive when it comes to interacting with your family about, let's say, a new version of self or a new viewpoint on reality is the fact that the very thing that you think held you back in life, let's say a fundamental belief that you adopted from your parents, in my case, for example, risk aversion. The fact that I should be working my 9 to 5, I should not be self-employed, I should not be investing in stock. So I come to the conclusion that that risk aversion in itself limits my own hero's journey, because the hero's journey in itself, in its essence, is stepping into the unknown and stepping into the realm of exploration. And in your realm of exploration, you need to then face your own demons and your own dragons. And so that entire process is unknown and risky. So for me to do that, because I know that that allows me to become my calling, I had to shed that belief that I need to be safe and I should be risk averse. So now every time I get to that conversation with my mom, I feel like I'm defending that more. And now that you say this, it makes perfect sense, because the very thing that held me back in life, which I believe or was limiting my potential, it didn't hold me back because I still was able to do certain things, but it limited where I want to go and how far I can go. That in itself, that voice is presenting itself again, embodied, let's say, through my mom in that regard. And that poses a threat. It's almost like encountering an old partner that you divorced or separated from because you didn't feel good around it, and it's presenting itself again in front of you. So you're almost doubling down now, because that's the last thing you want to let back into your life. And then that could create this more passionate dynamic with a family member, because it's the source of where that belief came from.
So it's almost triggering in that respect. It's interesting because it's making me realize that more often than not, when I feel like I'm defending myself, which in my head is because I have come to the conclusion that this is the right belief to hold. For example, I'm not going to give an example because this is not something that I'm thinking of a specific on. It's just I notice the tendency to correlate when I'm certain about something and I'm defending my cause, that contrary to what I actually feel like, which is no, I'm mega like, this is my stand, I'm drawing the line in the sand here. More often than not, it's probably that thing that needs a bit of work, because that's why I'm so vehemently defending it.
Because you haven't solidified that belief to the degree where you can just be calm and cool about it.
Yeah,
that's something we spoke about earlier too, right? It's the fact that the less your fundamental beliefs are rooted in self-conviction, the more likely you are to defend them.
Which I think is true. And I think now that I am viewing things that way, it's making me, I guess, more aware to relax a bit more in conversations, not try and get my point across as much, because I've definitely been that type of a person most of my life.
Yeah.
That's why I went to university for law, because my mum was like, put that to good use. Like, I'm the youngest kid in my family, so I'm very naturally competitive, argumentative, wanted to always be right.
Yeah.
And then I noticed that would be the context of my conversations. Like, I don't like authority in that way, being told what to do. I would be like, well, no, I'll decide what I'm going to do.
You're disagreeable.
Very disagreeable. And then as a kid, because I'm the youngest and I have older brothers and sisters, that family dynamic made me feel like I had to kind of prove myself. And you're obviously going to get put back in your place very quickly by older brothers and sisters. So in a good way, that gave me a strong ego, but in a not so helpful way, that led me to not. It's a weapon that I didn't know how to use.
Yeah.
So I was just flinging it around. And some stuff worked for me, like I was able to kind of boss my way through certain things. And then on the other side of that, I realized that I'm also not helping myself, because having a wild ego and being out there, feeling like I'm winning in conversations. I used to literally feel like I had to win the conversation.
Yeah.
I had to mic drop, and then I would walk off feeling like, you won that.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
That's your primitive self.
That's my primitive self. Yeah. That's my insecure part of my alpha.
Right.
The boy psychology from this book that I've been reading, it's my boy psychology, where I felt like I needed to be like a tyrant, or I had to be a brat, or to get something from the response of the conversation or the debate, or I just had to prove that I was right. Tricky. Now I've come to a point where I have more control over my ego because I'm aware of it more. I don't let it lead as much. But that wasn't the case.
So as long as you get away thinking you are right, you feel secure. The moment you don't feel right, you feel insecure. And that actually means that your ideas and beliefs allow you to get a grip on how you view reality. And the moment something comes and challenges that belief, it rattles the very foundation of your lens through which you view the world. So you're more likely to hold on to that strongly, which is probably also a lot of religious or political wars, because politics and religion are very fundamental to people's reality lens. So when someone comes and attacks that, you're much more likely to defend that. Why? Because every time you have a fundamental belief, it's almost like a house of cards. You take that card out, everything else is stacked upon that, so it trickles down and falls down. No one wants to have their worldview and the view on reality broken down. Why? Because now you're in utter chaos, or if you want to put it the other way, in a positive way, infinite potential. In any case, you have to rebuild from there. Rebuild is an expansion of energy. You have to invest energy again, and you have to sit there and question your former beliefs and then accept new ones. And then you have to go through the world with a new mindset. And that new mindset then means you're acting out things differently. But all of that is discomfort. So we're trying to avoid that discomfort by defending our fundamental beliefs. So that's what it is, right? And that also brings me to realize why I feel that actually the religious crowd, the one that is religious by the heart, less so by the mouth, because I know both camps. The ones that are genuinely religious by the heart, they have this deeply rooted sense of calmness, of conviction. And it's almost like because they have God on their team.
I think to your description of the piece, they have a fundamental baseline of peace.
Yeah.
They know that it's all good and it's all taken care of. There's nothing left to chance.
Yes.
So naturally, some part of them feels more settled, and you're drawn to that because that's something that you're interested in, also trying to find the baseline of, etc., etc. So people who are at that point, again, due to, and specifically making it a religious thing, having God on your side, or having a feeling like that things are going to be all right and that it's done, you're taken care of, mate. There's some beautiful feeling that comes with that,
yeah,
which allows you to then carry yourself differently.
Yes, and exactly, and also think about the fact that when you're trying to defend a point in a conversation, that's your ego, that's your rational mind trying to defend the point and dissect someone else's point based on pointing out their flaws and based on pointing out where you are right about. You know, you hear it a lot. What you're saying doesn't make sense. There is no logical conclusion to what you're saying. However, when you're genuinely a believer in God, that's a heartfelt thing. That's way beyond and way transcending the rational mind. So that's why I'm saying it's a deeply rooted feeling. So now when you can revert back to that feeling, or maybe you don't even have to revert back to it because you have it with you at all times, there is nothing in the logical sense that is able to shake that fundamental belief.
Yeah, and you wouldn't. Makes me think about the argument that you were talking about between the group of atheists and a Christian, and the group of Christians and the atheist.
The Jubilee conversation.
You're just not gonna you're not gonna convince one either way of it. But somehow the person who believes in God doesn't have even the desire to get to a point where we're arguing about whether something is or isn't. It's just like, you're not going to shake my belief on that. Yep. It's not something I question.
Yeah.
And to make it's like the X-Files, the truth is out there. Well, no, it's not. The truth's in there. And that's it. And if you can't be shaken on that by any outside evidence, because you know it to be so, you know it to be so.
Yeah, you know it to be so.
You don't even need to get into an argument. It's not about proving this or that, because you're not. It's just a state.
I mean, when you're arguing with someone, to a large degree, you're using your rational mind, if you're a good debater, to make your point. If you think about it from the atheist sense, and the fact that everything is evolution, they are using, again, the debate, the rational mind, to defend their rational points, because they believe in everything being rational and everything being a process of evolution. So they believe in the things they see and that they can test. But think about the religious person. That's not their fundamental guiding principle in life. Theirs is a belief that is outside of the rational mind. So naturally, they're bringing a weapon to the conversation that you can't directly attack. It's something that is closed off to the five senses, but accessible to you because of your divine nature. So naturally, there's nothing to defend, really, if you're religious by the heart. It's just something to bring it back to what you say. Whereas the logical speaker needs to logically explain what he logically knows. So he's going to be trapped in that loop.
He's trapped in words then.
He's trapped in sense making, really. And words are a process, are a means to make sense.
We think in words, don't we? We think ideas and thoughts and beliefs that you hold will be held in words.
Yes.
Contracts almost with yourself.
Yeah, I would even make the case that
I love how you say make the case as well. It's a very lawyer term, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a case.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you can, exactly. I mean, I think you can. You can even say that the guy who uses the words to formulate their thoughts and ideas does so after being imagistically inspired first. So you have an idea and you speak about that, but even like that guy who uses the words, I think the words, what I'm trying to say, are again a byproduct of your rational mind trying to make sense of some inner dynamic. And that inner dynamic somewhere is going to have some images being thrown at you, but you're trying to explain those. Or if it's not that, it's feelings. So even when you make sense, there's obviously something operating at a fundamental level which you are trying to explain logically, and you're using words to do so, which always makes it difficult, right? Because you're trying to put it into words, something you're internally experiencing at that moment.
Yeah. I think that then becomes the conversation that you have for the rest of your life at the point that you crack that egg.
Yeah.
Because then you're trying to translate and communicate what you've experienced, felt, learned to absolutely everybody else, especially those who haven't felt or experienced that. Because you realize at some part of your soul that everybody should be witness to this. This is what happens when you have an aha moment, or when you come into connection with the higher power. As is in any immense, epic experience that fits parts of you that can't be explained, it's like, oh my God, I just had this, I've had the feeling, Jesus came to me, or whatever. This happened for my dad. He was in a period of his life which was difficult, where he was up to no good. And then Jesus appeared to him in a vision of him as a stork, I guess, with his head in the sand. So to him, he tells this story that vision that came from God was his inner sense-making mechanism, viewing himself abstractly as having his head in the sand and avoiding doing things that he needed to do in his life because he was doing whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
So that vision was so strong to him, and it happened at a point which I guess was pivotal in his life, because otherwise I wouldn't have been here, where he needed to make a decision to either stop following all of the things that he was trying to chase in life and go back to his wife, aka my mum.
Interesting. It's interesting that
and just to finish that, the interesting thing is then he, for the rest of time since that moment, for the next 30, 40 years, has spent all of his life giving back to that thing that he believes gave him that vision, which is God, which is the church, the community. Everything became then, so now I'm going to focus my life this way.
Well, you know what's interesting is he interpreted it this way, but the interpretation followed the image. Because the image stood for a story that he now interprets from the sense-making part of his brain, and that then changed his life towards a different trajectory. And
I think the point I was trying to make was, once you've had that type of a vision, or you had the moment of the feeling of whatever it is. Another one of my dad's friends had a moment where the sun came out from behind some clouds and had a similar feeling. What distinguishes that particular moment or experience for any given purpose is going to be so complex and nuanced and different for each person, of course. But if you've had one of those types of experiences, no matter how you got to it, if you had a crack the egg moment where you've had a paradigm shift, you will then be on a different pathway and not be able to go back to the other pathway. Something will have changed.
Why do you think then some people are more likely to have this life-changing experience in which they get some type of information through images that is so profound that it shapes their life, and some people don't? They say, that doesn't make sense. Is it your own openness to receiving those signals? Or what would you say it is?
Yeah, I guess it's a bit of a combination of things. It's going to be you have to, I suppose you have to be wanting to find something like that too. You must be looking for a sense of meaning in order to find it. I think that I mean, I can't speak for anybody else, can I? I can only speak for myself.
Speak for yourself.
For myself,
Yeah.
I too was going through some phase of my life where I was doing things which were taking me off of the path that I know deep down is meant for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was sinning so much, missing the aim of my potential and what I know I have within, that eventually circumstances in the world reflected back to me that I needed to change it. Now, you can push that to whatever degree you want with your own personal experience.
Yeah.
But there'll be a point where certain things happen in life that are enough for you to go, okay, that's too far that direction, that's too far this direction, etc., etc. It may be the way that friends talk to you. It might be a situation that happens, like you crash your car or something. For me, it was. I crashed my car. Mm-hmm. And I realized, okay, so that's directly connected to this, and I needed to take more responsibility of this, and this.
What distinguishes you, in that case, using the negative events in your life as a feedback loop to challenge some of your fundamental beliefs versus someone that just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating? What do you think that is? How come two people can experience the same difficulty and it allows one to get on the right trajectory, whereas the other one just keeps going down the abyss?
It's just down to the individual person.
But what specifically, if you had to make a case, what was the inner dynamic for you? What was the conversation you had?
I'd reached my wit's end. I reached that point of no return. Like, I guess you have to find the darkness in you then. You've got to, like, we all have two elements to our personality. Mm-hmm. We've got the one fellow who's on the shoulder who's wants the best for you, the good angel, you could say, and then you've got this fella. Like, there's the balance of everything exists within all of us, and it's always up to us to make the choice which way we go. You have to want to make better decisions. You have to be able to realize that what you're aiming at in life, you have to really just hit those questions within yourself. You have to ask hard questions.
You know what all of this reminds me of?
What?
If I had to summarize this, it comes down to you accepting responsibility versus playing victim.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when life around you happens in a negative way and you don't like your life, and you fall into this trap of blaming the things and the people for it to happen, you will not change how you view the world. In your case, what started the shift, everything you just said is assuming that you're responsible for your own life. So if you don't have the fundamental belief that you are responsible for everything that is happening around you, then you will play the victim card, and then you will go down the abyss. Because the world around you is a reflection of who you believe you are, which makes the world around you the world of effect. The world of cause, however, then is within. Mm-hmm. As within, so without. As above, so below, right? Those are the spiritual teachings, but they're so profound because of that. But for you to realize that it needs an acceptance of responsibility that you are causing the things around you, that without that as a starting point, you are not going to be able to change your life independent of how much hardship you face. Because people sometimes say that he hasn't hit rock bottom yet. Maybe he needs to hit rock bottom. But hitting rock bottom is no guarantee for you to level up. It's just a chance for you to level up. Mm. And whether that is a catalyst for you leveling up or actually leveling down is based on your assumption of responsibility or rejection of responsibility. Your assumption that you are causing this versus your rejection of you're causing it, and the blaming externally of what is actually causing your misery.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely facts. And I wasn't. something I noticed about myself is that you can raise yourself to certain places in life through competition, the hustle nature, going after it, having some specific goals that you're setting yourself. But then if you're still not taking responsibility entirely, things will just block you at certain points. I reached certain points in my life where I was content, but also still shirking massive amounts of responsibility. And I still remember you saying to me radical responsibility, and that being such a big game changer for me, of just to constantly use that as a kind of litmus test of where I'm at. Because if I notice that I'm blaming any external situation on something that's allowing me to feel like, I've got an excuse, I've got to catch that as soon as I can.
Yeah. It's funny because for most people, assuming responsibility when things are going well is very easy. But assuming full responsibility when things are going poorly, that's difficult, because then it's like, okay, yeah, maybe I am responsible, but also, forget the but, man. Cut it right there. Don't even go into the but. Why?
Yeah.
Because the but is your ego, again, trying to rationalize yourself out of the situation. Assuming responsibility needs to be absolute, not relative. And the moment it's absolute, it gives you a level of power you never had before. It takes you out of the prison that things and people and events dictate how far you can go in life. And that, I believe, is the best framework you can go through life with. There's no better framework.
Yep.
You can say you don't believe it. You can say you don't like it. You think this is all BS, but ask yourself, what's the alternative? The alternative is not assuming responsibility. Okay, let's not assume responsibility, and let's say life around you was set up difficult. Boss was against you, grew up poor, maybe you're a minoritized group, whatever it is that you're experiencing. Difficult upbringing. Let's say, okay, you justify your viewpoint based on that. Is this viewpoint going to cause you more misery? Or you saying, okay, I grew up with all these difficulties, but I'm still going to, whether it's true or not, I'm going to say it is true and say that I am 100% responsible. Even when you look at it from a pragmatic, rational standpoint, what makes more sense to you? And I think the response to that is it depends. It depends whether you are trying to mask pain versus trying to level up. I think the more you're trying to mask pain, the more you're able to hide behind saying that this and that is causing me to feel that way. It's almost a veil you're hiding behind. So if your fundamental drive is to avoid pain, you're better off using the victim card. If your fundamental intention in life is maximizing your potential, then that viewpoint is going to absolutely destroy you. You have to assume responsibility in order to fulfill your own potential. And then you have to take off the veil.
Yeah, and also to accept where you're at. And that is in so much as where you've brought yourself to, and also the cards that you were dealt. Because without accepting, you'll never get to the point of being able to take responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
They come hand in hand, right? So you have to accept exactly where you're at, which again is like, that makes sense.
So what you're saying is you need to accept the present moment as a result of your previous beliefs and actions.
Always, yeah.
So that in itself is the assumption of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the alternative would be, no, I am here not because of my previous beliefs and because of my previous behaviors. I am here because of this external influence outside of me. Mm-hmm. That would be the victim mindset, right? Well, we can even then ask the question, why would you not want to accept responsibility, but still play the victim card. And I say specifically play because it is a play. It's a play against yourself, not against anyone else. It's a play against your own weak self, your own childlike self that doesn't want to grow up. And why is it the case that you don't want to break out of that? And I think one of the responses to that is you don't have enough energy. I think when your energy states are low to begin with, it's very hard to break out of that, because for you to change that fundamental belief, you have to pour a lot of energy into yourself before you can change that. The less energy you have, the more stagnant you become, and the less likely you are to question something that fundamental. Then the question would be, how can you raise your energy levels?
Yeah, and I would also add to that, activate, because it's not like you need to get that energy from anywhere else specifically. It's within you, right? Like this, that we always say. So it's kind of like finding those switches inside of yourself and activating them. Or like, you know, when the lights go off in your place, you have to go to the switcher box and you have to turn that off and then flick it back on again after 30 seconds, and then all your lights come back on.
Yes.
That's kind of what you need, a kind of hard reset.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah, now that you say this, to answer your question, the energy is not added or reduced. It's just transmuted. It's there already. You're just trying to change the direction of it. So
a lot of the time, because you're looking backwards.
Yeah. Yep.
If you're in the present moment, but you're saying, you know, but this happened before, and this has made this happen now, and that's why I'm in this situation, and da-da-da, and you're rationalizing all of the things that are going on in your head based on what's happened before.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, that reminds me again of the fact, this is has been studied, that the depressed people use more past tense language. So what you were saying is, yeah, this right now happened because this was, and this was, and this happened to me. So your misery is a result of the past, and you're defining it based on that. So your past temporal lens is predicting your misery present in the present state. So then to shift the perspective to the opposite of that, the more you are preoccupied with the present and what you can do today and what you can change internally today, which will predict your future, would be the transmutation of energy. So it's a shifting of your temporal lens from past to present, which would be true on a technical level if depression is associated with a past temporal lens. Which would mean then you would have to value the present moment as a predictor of your future. The moment you realize that your present moment is a result of your past internal state, what I mean by that is belief and then the behavior of the past, then that by definition puts the present moment and what you do and believe right now as the main predictor and shareholder of your future reality.
Present moment is the most valuable thing you've got. Your attention to that present moment and how you move through that moment, how you feel, what you choose to believe, and the fact that you can always keep that. I mean, other than, for me, God, the rest of my beliefs are kind of, I'm almost like enjoying to keep them slightly open. So that I can constantly be absorbing new data. Doesn't mean that I'm going to change my beliefs. It just means that I'm not so, I guess, as I'm aware of getting older and narrowing and getting comfortable and getting stuffy within the things that I'm like, well, no, it's not that.
Yeah.
I know that talking to someone who's 16 years old, they're going to bring some kind of new look to something on something that I have decided I have a firm belief on. If I can keep that openness across the board, I feel like I'm just going to be in a more receptive state.
Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense. I think that really summarizes everything. In the Bible, you have, in order to enter the kingdom of heaven, you have to become like children. Why children? Because children are open. They're not so set in their beliefs and so set in what is right or wrong. And what that really means is that the more perspectives you can take on, the more open you are, the more perspectives you can take on. And the more perspectives you can take on, the less misery you would experience. So then the answer to the transmutation of the emotional state from less depressed to more neutral would be, well, if you're someone who has a victim mindset, put yourself in the perspective of the complete opposite. Think about how you would view life if you would be 100% responsible of your life. Just put yourself in that mental state and think it through. So that could shift energy as a result of you playing out the complete opposite perspective, and possibly even a perspective of being in between. If you were half victim and half responsible, how would that play out? Because everything you were just saying, that openness, you speaking to someone and being open to someone else's idea, simply means that you can put yourself in that person's shoe on a mental level and play out that other perspective, which ties into that Bible verse of becoming children, because the openness of children is the ability to think openly about things and to not see the world in just one linear way, but to see it broadly, and that multiple things can exist at the same time. So part of that would just be playing this mental game of questioning your fundamental belief that should in itself already transmute some of that energy. You're almost playing you're going to play the role of your own therapist.
I think that then makes everything so much more interesting anyway. If you're trying to put yourself in other people's positions, you infinitely provide more compassion.
Mm-hmm.
You're in an entirely different state altogether, because you haven't got any preconceived notions of what should or shouldn't be. You haven't judged. There's no hierarchy when you're just communicating at that kind of a level. It's just, where is that person coming from and how do they feel like that?
Mm-hmm.
And then seeing stuff from their view allows you to just be a nicer person.
But if that openness towards someone else's opinion, again, is hurtful to your own view of reality, then you can't be that open towards it. So,
well, you obviously have this because you'll be talking to people sometimes, and you'll think this guy's an idiot.
Yep.
But then do you not have to catch yourself in that moment and go, hang on a minute.
Absolutely.
Is he the idiot or am I the idiot for making that assumption?
It depends on what it is that we're talking about. If someone is telling...
If he's talking about Messi and Ronaldo and he's saying that Ronaldo's better than Messi?
Obviously an idiot. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. How dare they, man? It's the Ronaldo-Messi comparison. That's the main one. And then the second one would be if someone is telling me that, no, you are not responsible for your own well-being. There's a lot of factors, and that you can absolutely be a victim, and that you're a result of the things around you.
So that's just someone that's born into that. Then.
Yeah.
Someone that's born into difficulty.
Yeah, I mean, and then it's just not anything that I accept as a belief. I can absolutely understand it. I can understand that you had it more difficult in life, or you've been through things. Bro, I've been through things.
Mm-hmm.
All of us have. I freaking 2018, tinnitus ringing in the ears. Wasn't able to sleep for like 6 months. Became extremely depressed. Didn't want to leave my room. Literally was just wanting to sleep and sleep it off and wake up. Tinnitus still there. Damn it. Damn. And then From there, started seeking, how can I do it? Started all types of diets, all types of supplements. Nothing helped. From there, went into panic attacks 2 years later. I never in my life had panic attacks. Thought, what is this, man? Am I dying? Like, what's that feeling? So just one health problem after another. And bear in mind, I was in the US. I wasn't in Germany. I was on a student visa, and I couldn't work. I couldn't really make money. I was on a, on a fellowship at university. Bare minimum. Then from there, I get another health issue, brain zaps and these tremors. Again, I can't sleep. So I do all these MRIs. I do all these labs. And I had this question. I had the victim question. It's like, why is this happening to me? How come all my friends are out there partying, enjoying life, focusing on their careers, where I'm like, I just hope I can wake up tomorrow and don't feel like all my muscles are trembling and twitching. So it's why me? Why me? Why me? That's a victim question. But could I have told you, like, yeah, I feel like that, and you wouldn't have compassion for me and understand me? Of course you would have. You would have said, yeah, I get it, bro. This is hard. But what do I get from that, man? It's like, it is happening, and it has happened, and I'm making the choice, and I'll say it's happening because of something within me. I'm convinced by that. It's something within me that is causing that.
Were you saying that at the time?
It came afterwards.
So because at the time it's very difficult for you to be able to switch out of victim mentality when
Super difficult.
When you're sick or some kind of physical ailment, or panic attacks. How you can't just go rationally talk yourself back into it.
You don't even understand, man. I was freaking driving in the car with my girlfriend at that time, and just out of nowhere, she's getting a phone call. She's speaking to her parents, and I'm getting a panic attack. But I'm not telling her. I just start sweating. You see, like the sweat is dripping down. And I thought like I didn't know what panic attack was. I thought I'm getting like a seizure or something like that. I thought I'm dying. I didn't know what that was because I was blacking out too. So I'm like, what is this? It's the unknown is hitting you. That's literally it. The absolute chaos and unknown is hitting you. That darkness. How to make sense of that? Difficult. It's like, why is it happening? What am I doing that's causing this? Doing all the labs, doing all the tests, everything comes back normal. Something is causing it though. That's at least my belief. At the same time, I was also dreaming about fat snakes every night. Same repeating dream every night. Fat snakes.
Bro, this sounds horrible.
Bro, like that's what I'm saying. Everyone is, if you want to say you're a victim, there's enough reasons for everyone to be a victim. You look at someone, you say, oh, that person had it easy. That person also had a lot of things that you could frame as victimhood. At that time, I remember friends were telling me, dude, you should just come back to Germany, man. This is not, it's happening for a reason. You shouldn't be in the United States. And I was very much worried about my status because I didn't have a green card at that time. I couldn't work. I couldn't see my family. Then COVID hit. I couldn't even leave the country anymore because the moment I would have left, I would have lost my student status. So I was like having all these health issues. My parents weren't able to come. My friends weren't able to come. And I wasn't able to leave. I had a job offer that was tied to me receiving my legal work permit. At that time, I had planned to marry my girlfriend at the time. That didn't work out. So I also lost my future earning potential because now I moved back to student status. So I had to call up my advisor and say, you know what, you have to keep me on as a student another year, otherwise I'll lose my status. So he's like, we can't do that. There's not enough funding in school. Let me talk to the dean. So talk to the dean. He's a good friend of mine, man. It's like he figured it out for another year, but then I was like, what do I do? Like, there's no path for me to get it, right? And so to move out of that really for me was a lot of soul searching, a lot of just sitting with it. A lot of just trying to make sense of it. That's how it was in the beginning. And then I wasn't able to make sense of it. It was the conclusion that maybe I'm asking the wrong question. Rather than asking why me, maybe the question is, who am I and how can I just cope with whatever it is that life throws at me? So that got me a lot into the spiritual teachings. And also the podcast with JP and his books. So his entire question is not why is it happening to me, but how can I carry my own cross? So it's a fundamentally different question. So that question now put the lens to me rather than outwardly. Who is this thing that's causing this to happen within? It was like, who am I? And how can I build myself in a way that no matter what happens, I can keep a stable balance within, and I can deal with the things that life throw at me, no matter how difficult they are. So that's where it started.
That was your calling for the hero's journey, right? That was the
believe so.
moment where you were going through the hardship of knowing that things weren't necessarily working out the way you'd planned. Then up comes the opportunity for you to face some stuff within yourself.
Yeah.
And then there's the resistance to doing that. The point of resistance, the part of the journey that you've gotten to before going, you know what, I'm going to battle through this. This is for me to take on.
Yeah.
That was probably feeding into you feeling worse and all various other things like the panic attacks, for example. That was you're all in the resistance of you actually beginning what you needed to do.
Yes. And it was actually that same energy that I then used for my own benefit, because in the beginning it was why me, like this aggression, like let me find that thing that is doing it to me and break it apart, what is the thing that's causing it? But that same energy then I was able to use that same energy against that voice of inner victimization. That is,
so you just basically at some point were like, I've had enough of this, and you realized that you were the mountain.
Yeah. That's like you using your ego, telling yourself, you're going to go until here, but not any further. Now I am in charge. It's that moment when you realize what you're actually made of. And I think that's actually how we're supposed to use the ego. It's not to define ourselves based on other people and say we're better or worse than this, and that. But it's actually our ability to face the things that we fear the most and then overcome them through courage over fear. And if you use your ego in that way, you're able to do so. You're able to transmute that fear and move towards love. And you use your ego to do that, but not pointed outwardly, externally as a weapon towards other people, but towards a weapon of yourself, as a weapon towards yourself. And it was that moment that started that journey where, again, everyone around me would have totally be compassionate and understood if I told them, you know what, this is it. Forget it. I'm coming back, man. This was not meant to be.
Yeah,
everyone would have been good with that, right?
Yeah.
But this is actually that's the key differentiator, what you do in that moment. And I would say this is not the only time this happened. This is going to happen again in my life at some point. And I do think it's the net summary of your decision making when these situations happen that dictate where you go in life and also give you the answer to who you are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yep. As you were saying that, it made me think of the How to Train Your Dragon. It's almost like that's our ego, right? It's the out of control beast, whatever. It's growing with us at the same pace, but it's like our counterpart, and it can be either, but you've got to train it because it can go. Otherwise, it goes off on a rampage. But if you train it like you would train a dragon, then it can be that. It can be the passenger seat to, or even not even the passenger seat. It could be the driver. You're the passenger seat because we're the one who's watching and observing what goes on in our life, whether we want to admit it or not. Mm-hmm. That part of us is what we've commanded our ego to do. It's how we act as the I. And the more that you can get that under control, and the more that you realize that you are, again, in the responsibility thing, you are the one directing that. It's your responsibility to direct it.
Yeah. So
you best be choosing a good direction. Because otherwise it's going to go anywhere it wants. It's like having access to GPS and being able to select what route you're on versus getting in the car and just being like, let's go wherever we feel like. You probably end up in the wrong places.
Absolutely.
But if you take control of that,
yeah.
And again, to your point, it's like everything that you're saying here is so relevant because it's all down to one, taking responsibility and also realizing that you have the power to anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That's empowering to understand once you realize it, once you get out of the way of the victim mentality is hard. I know that. I've been in it, and I've used excuses to people that love me, who, from their perspective, are just willing you to get to the point where you go, you know what? I've had enough. No more.
Yes, no more.
And that when you see that in another person where they take control, that's a winner's mentality,
Absolutely.
Championship level.
Yep.
And then I'm doubly enthused for that person. I'll go out of my way to help them.
Mm-hmm.
But before that they reach that point, it's hard because you know that they're not there yet.
Absolutely, man. And I've seen that same thing, because you see people that face difficult situations and become the hero. They start their hero's journey and they level up. But you see another person facing the same situation, and they're never the same afterwards in a negative way. And in my case, I was lucky enough to grow up in a very competitive environment, both in terms of my family. They were always pushing me to be better in school and get better grades. And I naturally had that competitive element in me, but also with my friends. Like, all of those are immigrant kids, where it was all about who's faster, who's stronger, who beats up whom. And then it transitioned to, it was just ultimate competition where I grew up. It's because we all came from a place where there's not too much, so everyone wanted to get the biggest chunk of the cake. That was the mentality. But it was using that same energy that you were using to outcompete other people to outcompete yourself, your inner victim voice. So it was that transmutation of that energy. But some people don't have that inherently within them. As a result, probably of their upbringing, they have never developed this muscle in general. They don't have that fierce competitive element in them. And I always asked myself why it is that some people level up through hardship and some level down. And I think it comes down to that energy that says until here and no further. But I also believe that everyone can still develop that energy no matter what age. And my question to you would be, I have an answer that I've thought of, but what would your answer be to how can someone who doesn't have that competitive element to declare to their victim self that now they are in charge? How can they develop that muscle?
Yeah, I would say find a bigger cause than yourself. So I found it through God. Mm-hmm. I found it through the grander picture. And that's the way to do it. It's to find the bigger thing.
That's a really good answer. So with men, things aren't possible, but with God, everything is possible.
Yeah. I think as well, as you were saying a lot of that, it reminded me of something that Jesus said of the man who's last, whatever it is, whoever is last will come first, and whoever is first will come last. Mm-hmm. But in the context of this, it's realizing that the things that are hard that you have to overcome actually places you at the front when you accept them and overcome them.
Yep. Yeah.
And taking the responsibility of that and realizing that it's not, that's sad, it's hard and it's difficult and all of those things. But then it's in you taking control of that, accepting it and surrendering. That's what I've been dealt, or I've dealt myself, both. But with the power of more than just myself, I'm going to go into battle on this and we're going to get through it.
That's what Jordan Peterson calls carrying your own cross. And in order for you to carry your own cross, despite the misery you're facing, you need a deeper purpose in life. Mm-hmm. And I believe that you're absolutely correct, that deeper purpose in life is serving the divine. And that allows you to transcend any hardship you face, essentially, right? Because you're also putting it up in God's hands. The question moves from trying to make sense of it from the eyes of a human, the why me. If you ask the why me, it's a human asking for a reason to understand why it is him that is suffering. It doesn't matter why it is me. I can deal with that because I have God on my side, because I have a deeper purpose, right? And I do believe that's the best and the deepest way to get to that point where you don't feel like you're the victim anymore, but you are able to become the victor if you use the scenario to transform who you are. And for me, it was that, and it was also on a more practical level, putting myself in difficult physical situations. I remember that when that happened, when I was at the lowest mental point in life, I started to become the strongest physical version of myself. It literally correlated. My lowest mental state then correlated subsequently with my strongest physical state. And I do believe yin and the yang, the mind and the body. I do believe if you build a strong body or an even stronger body as a result of whatever it is you're facing that's tearing you down mentally, it will balance some of that out and possibly put you in a position then from where you can seek a spiritual purpose or a religious purpose that then will be your fundamental guiding principle in life. So
yeah, you said why. I think the biggest question really is we're constantly asking why. So it's either why me, or why do I have to put up with this situation, or why am I in this situation? It's always why. And what would be the answer that your parents would give you when you ask them why too many times? As a kid, I remember asking the question why back to back. So it would be like, why?
But why?
Because
why?
Because this. Yeah, but why? But why?
But
and
why?
eventually you'd wear the parent down until they say, because I said so. That would be the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And that there is no comeback to that answer.
Yeah.
And if you think about it from a divine perspective, if you're asking God or the universe or whatever else, why, the answer eventually is going to neutralize out to, because that's just how it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you need this hardship in order for you to get to this next point.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go and play any computer game, which is level 1 and then the end of level 1, finish, game over. Worst game ever. The point is that it's difficult. The point is that it's tricky, that it's hard, that there's some finessing to it for you to get through that level.
Yeah.
Whatever level you're in your life requires you to get better at that point so that you have more tools to be able to get through, to defeat the boss, to get to the next stage.
Yeah. That's very true, man. And I think the tools you need to find to get to the next stage are the things that allow you to level up given your very specific situation. So in my case, I had to be able to frame the hardship I was facing into something that makes sense. And the thing that made sense to me was Jordan Peterson's story of carrying your own cross. It's like, that's a way for me to go on the path that I need to go, that again transcends me as an individual, the hero's journey. And on a practical level, what helped was just associating myself with that idea on a daily, listening to that stuff on a daily, reading that on a daily. That allowed me to make sense of the thing that I was facing, and it moved from why is it happening to me to how can I transcend it. I wasn't dispensing with the why so much anymore. It was the why was answered to me. Why? Because it's your higher calling. Not for you to think about that much more than that. The how is through finding a purpose that is transcending you as an individual, the divine, your higher self, the force, the quantum, whatever you want to call it. And then from there, letting yourself go into that. And you then realize as a result of that, that you are more capable of doing things you never thought you were capable of doing. And you're able to face things that you didn't think you could face. Because the first instinct in the beginning is that takes you out. I remember in the beginning when the ear thing happened, I couldn't sleep for 6 months. It was so loud. Three frequencies on the left side and 2 on the right. So it's different tones. One is shrill, one is deep, and one is like a Morse code. And then 2 on this side.
Dude, what are they telling you? What are the aliens telling you?
Dude, I think they connected me with you, man. That's what and it was like, in the beginning, it was like, this is not living is better than living with this. That was the initial idea.
Wow.
And you think you can't face that, right? And ultimately, you overcome that, plus the panic attacks, plus the brain zaps, plus the inability to work, plus no status, plus no money. You overcome that and plus some. Crazy if you think about it, right? That we're made of more than we think we're made of. Why? Think what we're made of. Our rational mind is telling us we can't, but there is something beyond the rational mind that allows you to transcend. So the how and the when, that's not for me to dispense with, man. It's going to be dispensed with. For me, the only responsibility is building that self-conviction. And the quickest and best route is finding some concept of the divine, something that transcends you as an individual, that allows you to put the eggs in that basket. So you're giving away that how and why towards a higher calling. And then on a practical level is put yourself through physical hardship and prove to yourself by overcoming difficult physical obstacles that you are more than. It's the same mechanism on a smaller scale. And if you combine those two together, and you see that a lot with people that start building their body, start becoming stronger and losing weight almost as a catalyst towards just bettering their life in general. And that's why mind and body are interconnected. Yeah, you'll always have that way out. You always have that way out.
Yeah, and I think that's of all of the things that we've spoken about, specifically that one really resonates with me about putting yourself through physical hardship and the active choosing of that to prime and strengthen your mental aptitude and fitness. Mm-hmm. And I think to myself that whenever especially because I have friends that are depressed, like that's the first thing that I would normally be like, you getting out enough? Are you walking this, that, and the other? Yeah. Because again, like when it comes to having the energy within us, a lot of the times when we're in the depressed states, our energy level is lower because we're also not engaging it. We're staying in more, under the covers, watching telly, anything to avoid the active use of our energy, which if we were just to do that one thing would help raise it a little bit more, or activate it. And physical stuff, physical hardships, choosing that you can, there's always an option for you to do something like that. Like that's been such a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And is also my personal experience. And I would add one last thing on top to the end of that. If you are around someone who's either trying to be fit or is, their mental state usually matches the fact that that they're going through some stuff, because the self-discipline that it takes to show up regularly, to go to that gym or to go to that run club or whatever, adds into their mental state.
Yeah.
So they will tend to just be more stable, more upbeat, more positive, more less excuses, because they also just realize that you can't give yourself an excuse to not go to the gym, because if you don't go to the gym, then your weight will rise and et cetera, et cetera. So they know fundamentally that it requires some work. But that work is usually, it's not even in how intense it is, it's in the consistency of it.
Yeah. That's very true. And it's also, if you don't face the things that are difficult in your life and overcome them, you lack reference points that you can look to tell yourself how strong you were in that moment. So as you go through life, you're almost accumulating these reference points where you encountered difficulties and overcame that. And that in itself, the sum total of those decision points that you overcame also predict your level of self-respect and self-trust.
I'd actually say that's a really good way as well for somebody who is down on themselves or down on their luck to actually realize how many things that they've come through.
Yeah.
to actually write down sometimes where you've overcome some stuff that you didn't think that you could, and see how well you feel afterwards once you realize, I did get through that, didn't I? Because it's very easy to just forget about those things or compartmentalize them. And that's a celebration of your small wins, to be able to see those things and that you beat that. And then, to your point, like you always say, you prove to yourself that you're more than you thought you were. And there's something in that which will then get you to go back again and again and again.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And that's why in the Bible, Joel 3:10, let the weak men say they're strong, and let the poor men say they're rich. That's the same thing. It just means that whatever you're facing right now, within you are going to be a different person that will be reflected outwardly. But in order for you to, if you're the weak man, in order for you to say that you are strong, you will have to build that muscle. You will have to have those reference points. And those reference points can be relative. Maybe you're facing the biggest challenge of your life, but there's definitely some point in your life in which it was difficult for you and you overcame that. So you're shifting that perspective to that situation, right? And I would believe, and I would make the case that the magnitude of the problem you're facing is going to dictate the magnitude of your courage and of your ability to transcend that problem, go hand in hand. You will be able to live up to whatever problem that is. So if you've had a small problem that you were able to overcome, you're like, yeah, but that wasn't as difficult as what I'm facing right now. Well, the problem in itself dictates your necessity to come and face the problem.
Yeah. That's again the responsibility thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're on level 8 now. You don't get level 1 problems anymore.
Correct.
You've now opened yourself up to a harder, more difficult level to get through.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't, but also, so within that, this is what you're saying, comes your ability to face it.
Yeah.
You constantly are being placed exactly where you need to be in order to become an even more sharper, more well-fashioned version of yourself.
The problems will find you when you're prepared for them. It's just knowing that you can face them and overcome them.
That sounds similar to the teacher will present themselves when the student is ready type of a phrase.
Exactly that, yeah.
And to tie that into another phrase, which is one that my pastor had used recently, is that the past can be a great teacher, but it will never be a prophet. I didn't really get that one out very well, but
that's a good one.
That's a banging statement.
Yeah.
It can't be the thing that's helping you decide what your future is. It's just a learning mechanism.
Well, yeah.
But we can all rely on it. Not rely on it, but we can all look back and stay too much in that mindset. Like let our thoughts fester there.
Yeah, even though that past is not able to predict your future, or that same mechanism might not allow you to level up right now, the fruits it bared in the past prepared you enough to the extent where now you're able to overcome whatever it is you're facing. So it was a necessary stepping stone from you to go from level 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. And it's just knowing that you will face the problem in the magnitude that you are able to face it at any given point in time.
So let's say you're on level 8 and you are Zangief and you're trying to do the dance moves with Gorbachev. How do you get to the point where you complete the game and beat M. Bison? Dead serious, bro. Dead serious.
We'll have to go back to Earth Cafe and talk to the guy we saw a couple of weeks ago.
I guess what I'm really asking there then is, like, when you're completing levels of the game and you feel like that this game is endless.
Yeah.
You just have to be cool with the fact that this is the game that you're playing.
Yeah.
Or is there a point where you can feel like you've completed that game and you could switch another one in? What if you don't want to play Street Fighter anymore and you want to play, Pro Evo?
What if we don't have to categorize everything as one or the other? What if it isn't about never completing it or completing it? What if it's just both?
What if you're not playing the
What
game?
if-
What if you're not playing a specific game? You're actually
Exactly.
the creator of the game.
Exactly. That's again us trying to make sense of things. But
Dude, imagine Zangief in Pro Evo.
where would he even play, bro? Number
Bro,
9?
he would be a solid defensive midfielder. And when I say solid, I mean actually brick wall.
Brick wall. Yeah. He could also play number 9. Hold up. False
Nah,
nine.
he's not got the speed for
Yeah.
a striker.
He doesn't need speed, dude. You just pass it into him, and he's just gonna stand like this
Just blocking
against
people off.
Dude, he's just holding it with his soul.
He can get quite low.
Makes the-
when he does
with the dance.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dope.
Dope, man. Cheers.
Cheers, bro.